Again at 3 a.m.? Your eyes open and the room is completely dark. Your body feels heavy, exhausted, ready to sink, but your brain is suddenly wide awake. It's not gradual, it's immediate and sharp, almost like something quietly switched on, and you didn't choose it. It doesn't feel like normal insomnia, it feels mechanical, automatic. Your mind starts reviewing conversations, planning tomorrow in unnecessary detail, replaying old memories you didn't ask for. Your heart feels slightly more alert, like your system moved into standby mode. You try to fall asleep again, but the more you try, the more awake you feel. If you've ever woken up at 3 a.m. for no reason, felt your brain won't shut off, experienced a racing mind at night, or struggled to sleep through the night, there's something happening here most people never hear about. I'm Dr. Sarah, a sleep medicine specialist with a background in psychiatry. For over 18 years, I've worked with adults struggling with sleep, especially men and women over 40, people who never had insomnia before, people who suddenly wake up at 3 a.m., people who feel their brain won't shut off at night, and they all ask the same question. Many tell me, my body is exhausted, but my mind won't stop. They're tired all day, foggy, running on fumes, but the moment their head hits the pillow, something shifts. Or they fall asleep just fine, only to wake up in the middle of the night alert, heart slightly elevated, thoughts accelerating, as if morning came 3 hours too early. For years, sleep advice focused on stress management, better habits, better routines, more discipline. And yes, those things matter to a degree, but sleep science explains something deeper. In many cases, the issue isn't that you can't sleep, it's that your brain is preventing you from staying asleep. And what happens between 3 and 4 a.m. reveals why. Because during that window, a very specific biological shift begins. It's subtle but powerful. For most people, it goes unnoticed, but for some, it triggers a full internal alert. Not anxiety in the psychological sense, something far more automatic. This is where perspective changes everything. You're not weak, you're not broken, and you're not failing at sleep. Your nervous system may be reacting to something precise, something measurable, something physiological, especially after 40 when rhythms become more sensitive, and once you see it, the pattern becomes clear. To understand why your brain feels awake at 3 a.m., we have to look at what the body is preparing for, because while you think it's still night, your biology may already be shifting toward morning. And in certain brains, that shift doesn't stay gentle, it becomes amplified. And that amplification is where everything starts. During the second half of the night, your body begins subtle but powerful hormonal adjustments. Cortisol, your primary alertness hormone, starts preparing for its natural morning rise. Your circadian rhythm slowly shifts from deep night toward early dawn. Brainwave activity becomes slightly lighter and less anchored in deep sleep. Core body temperature begins a gradual transition upward. These changes are automatic and biologically programmed. They are meant to happen every single night. For most people, this transition is smooth and controlled. The nervous system remains calm and regulated. Melatonin continues protecting the deeper stages of sleep. Cortisol rises slowly and in proper balance. The sleep switch remains stable and undisturbed. The brain interprets the environment as safe. Sleep continues without interruption. But for some individuals, the nervous system responds differently. Instead of perceiving this shift as normal, the brain interprets it as significant. A subtle internal alert begins forming beneath the surface. It is not panic, but it is activation. It feels like a quiet scanning process has started, as if the brain is checking the environment for potential threats, even when the room is completely safe. This is the exact moment you wake up. Your eyes open suddenly into darkness. Your body still feels tired and heavy, but your mind feels unusually clear. Thoughts begin forming without effort, your brain feels switched on, and the silence of the room makes it louder. Once this alert mode activates, chemistry begins shifting rapidly. Cortisol rises slightly faster than it should. The nervous system tightens instead of relaxing. Melatonin starts losing its influence too early. The sleep switch becomes unstable and fragile. Your awareness of being awake increases. Falling back asleep becomes unexpectedly difficult. What makes this confusing is that it feels automatic. You're not choosing to think or analyze. Your brain simply refuses to power down. The more you try to force sleep, the more alert you feel. This pattern can repeat night after night, especially for adults over 40 whose rhythms are more sensitive. And this is where the deeper mechanism begins to reveal itself. Modern sleep science has a name for this pattern. It is called the Neural Sleep Inhibition Response. This is not a trend or theory pulled from nowhere. It is a protective neurological state. It reflects how the brain prioritizes safety over rest. And once you understand it, the pattern makes sense, because your brain is not malfunctioning. The Neural Sleep Inhibition Response is a defense mode. In this state, the brain increases sensitivity to cortisol. Even small hormonal shifts feel amplified. The nervous system remains slightly activated, not enough to trigger panic, but enough to prevent full surrender to sleep. And that subtle activation changes everything. When this response turns on at night, it interferes directly with the sleep switch. Deep sleep becomes fragile instead of stable. The transition between cycles becomes lighter. The brain maintains partial vigilance. Rest never fully consolidates, and your system stays on standby. This is why you wake up at 3 a.m. This is why your brain feels like it won't shut off. This is why thoughts begin racing in the dark. This is why you struggle to fall asleep again. And this is why you wake up tired. Different experiences, but one mechanism. Over time, repetition strengthens the pattern. If this happens for weeks or months, the brain anticipates the 3 a.m. shift. Neural pathways reinforce the alert response. Cortisol timing becomes more reactive. The nervous system learns the rhythm of disruption, and the cycle quietly becomes automatic. But there's another layer that makes this more common, something that shifts naturally with age, something that increases cortisol sensitivity, something that makes the sleep switch more fragile, especially after 40. And that biological shift changes the entire equation. After 40, subtle biological shifts begin to reshape sleep architecture. Hormonal rhythms that once felt automatic become more sensitive. Melatonin production often becomes lighter and less sustained. Cortisol fluctuations can feel sharper to the nervous system. Circadian timing may lose some of its former resilience. Deep sleep stages can become slightly shorter, and nighttime stability becomes easier to disrupt. This does not mean something is wrong with you. It does not mean your brain is deteriorating. It does not mean insomnia is inevitable. It simply means your system is more responsive to imbalance. Small hormonal changes create larger neurological reactions. Minor stress signals feel amplified at night, and recovery takes slightly longer than it once did. Because cortisol sensitivity increases with age, the brain becomes more reactive during early morning hours. The 3 a.m. hormonal transition carries more weight. The nervous system shifts faster into alertness. The sleep switch becomes more delicate, and stability depends on tighter regulation, which makes disruption more noticeable. When the neural sleep inhibition response activates after 40, it often activates more easily and more consistently. What used to be a rare awakening becomes a pattern. What used to resolve quickly now lingers. Falling back asleep requires more time. The brain holds on to alertness longer, and sleep fragmentation becomes more common. This is why many people suddenly struggle with insomnia after 40. Even if they slept perfectly for decades, even if they follow good sleep habits, even if their stress levels seem manageable. The shift feels confusing and unexpected because nothing dramatic appears to have changed, yet the nights feel completely different. Most people blame willpower or overthinking. They assume they are doing something wrong. They push harder to force sleep to happen. But this is not a discipline issue. It is not simply a mindset problem, and there's another biological layer intensifying this pattern. Sleep depends on what researchers often call the sleep switch. This is the neurological mechanism that allows the brain to shift into deep restorative cycles. When melatonin rises properly, the process begins naturally. When the nervous system relaxes, the transition becomes stable. Brain wave patterns slow and synchronize, the body releases muscular tension, and true deep sleep can take hold. But when the neural sleep inhibition response is active, the sleep switch never fully locks into place. Melatonin may rise, but it cannot dominate. Cortisol remains slightly elevated in the background. The nervous system stays partially vigilant. Deep sleep becomes lighter and more fragile, and the brain never fully surrenders. You may still fall asleep at the beginning of the night, but the depth of that sleep is different. It feels thinner and easier to disturb. Small internal shifts wake you quickly. Environmental noises feel amplified. Your mind transitions upward too fast, and returning to sleep feels harder each time. This is why you may wake up multiple times. This is why you wake up at 3 a.m. unexpectedly. This is why your brain feels active in darkness. This is why you wake up tired despite hours in bed. Sleep occurred, but restoration did not complete. Cycles were interrupted before consolidation, and the morning feels heavier than it should. Your brain is not broken. It is not failing at sleep. It is staying on guard in a subtle way. It believes vigilance is necessary, even when no real danger exists. The defense system overrides the rest system, and protection takes priority over recovery. The more you try to force sleep, the more pressure you create internally. That pressure signals the nervous system to stay alert. Effort increases awareness instead of relaxation. The sleep switch becomes even more unstable, and frustration strengthens the pattern. So the real question becomes how to lower that nighttime defense response. Most people try to force sleep when it stops cooperating. They push harder the next night. They extend time in bed. They demand that the brain shut down. They treat wakefulness like an enemy, and that effort feels logical, but biology does not respond to pressure. Some turn to sedatives to override the system. Others use alcohol to dull mental activity. Some exhaust themselves physically. Others scroll until their eyes burn. These methods may create temporary drowsiness, but they do not resolve nighttime alert mode. They often intensify instability later. The brain does not respond to force. It responds to safety signals. Sleep is not something you conquer. It is something the nervous system allows. When safety is perceived, cortisol lowers naturally. When safety is stable, vigilance decreases, and the sleep switch remains engaged. To sleep through the night, the brain must feel safe enough during hormonal shifts, especially during the 3 a.m. transition window. Cortisol must rise gradually, not abruptly. The nervous system must remain regulated. Internal signals must stay consistent, and the environment must feel predictable. This is not about shutting the brain down artificially. It is not about sedation or suppression. It is about stabilizing the neural sleep inhibition response. When that response lowers, vigilance decreases. When vigilance decreases, deep sleep stabilizes. When stability returns, awakenings reduce, and sleep begins to consolidate again. When this stabilization starts happening, people often notice subtle but meaningful changes. They wake less abruptly, their thoughts feel quieter at night, falling back asleep requires less effort, mornings start to feel lighter. And that shift reveals something important about what the brain truly needs. When the neural sleep inhibition response begins to lower, the change is often subtle at first. Night awakenings become less abrupt, the racing mind softens instead of accelerating, returning to sleep feels more natural, the body settles faster after brief awakenings, and mornings start to feel lighter. This shift does not happen because sleep is forced. It happens because the brain no longer perceives threat. Cortisol rises at a steadier pace. The nervous system remains regulated during transitions. The sleep switch holds its position longer. Deep sleep consolidates more effectively, and the night feels less fragmented. This is why modern sleep protocols focus on regulation, not suppression, but nervous system stability, not sedation, but cortisol timing support, not rigid routines, but circadian alignment. The goal is gentle internal stabilization, so the brain regains confidence in nighttime safety, and the alert response no longer dominates. In my clinical practice, I've seen how small adjustments can reinforce this stability, especially when they support the brain's natural rhythm. That's why I began recommending a doctor-approved natural support formula, not as a sleeping pill, not as a chemical shutdown, but as complementary support for nighttime balance, designed to work with physiology, not against it. This type of support is intended to help regulate cortisol patterns. It encourages steadier nervous system signaling, it reinforces circadian timing consistency, and it helps stabilize the internal environment overnight, so the brain does not escalate into alert mode and the sleep switch remains active without artificial sedation. If you'd like to see the exact support I mentioned to my patients, it's available in the first pinned comment below. But before you explore that option, there is something critical about 3 a.m. itself, because that specific window holds a biological clue, and understanding that timing changes everything, especially if 3 a.m. has become your pattern. If you wake up at 3 a.m., it does not automatically mean you have permanent insomnia. It does not mean your brain is broken. It does not mean you are losing the ability to sleep. And it does not mean this pattern will last forever. What it often means is something far more specific and far more reversible. In many cases, your brain has entered a neural sleep inhibition response, a protective physiological pattern, one that prioritizes alertness over deep rest, one that amplifies cortisol sensitivity at night, one that keeps the nervous system slightly activated even when your body feels exhausted and even when your room is completely safe. This response is not a life sentence. It is not a fixed diagnosis. It is a learned and reinforced state, which means it can also be unlearned. When the correct biological signals are restored, the brain often recalibrates its nighttime rhythm and sleep begins stabilizing again. Many people find they can sleep through the night once more, not because they forced it, not because they suppressed their thoughts, but because their nervous system stopped escalating, because cortisol timing became smoother, because the sleep switch regained stability, and because the brain felt safe again. This does not happen perfectly, it does not happen instantly, but it happens naturally when physiology aligns. The awakenings reduce in intensity, falling back asleep becomes easier, mornings feel less heavy, and confidence in sleep begins returning. In the next video, I'm going to explain why the brain enters brain alert mode specifically between 3 a.m. and 3:30 a.m. I'll break down how cortisol timing plays a hidden role in that window and why that exact half hour matters more than most people realize. Because once you understand what happens during that shift, 3 a.m. stops feeling mysterious. It starts feeling predictable, and that predictability changes how you respond to it. Click on the pinned video where I break down the missing piece behind 3 a.m. awakenings. I explain why cortisol can spike earlier than expected, why that spike feels stronger after 40, how circadian rhythm subtly shifts with age, and why those shifts increase nighttime sensitivity. This is the biological layer most people never see, but once you see it, the pattern becomes logical. In that video, I go deeper into the early morning cortisol window. You'll understand why 3 a.m. and 3:30 a.m. is not random, why the brain enters alert mode during that transition, and how the nervous system misinterprets normal signals, especially when the neural sleep inhibition response is active. That half-hour window holds critical clues that explain years of frustration. If 3 a.m. has become your unwanted alarm clock, this explanation may finally connect the dots. It may explain why your brain feels awake in darkness, why your thoughts accelerate without permission, why you can't fall back asleep easily, and why mornings feel heavier than they should. Because the issue is timing, not failure. You'll also learn how circadian rhythm shifts after 40, why melatonin timing becomes lighter, why cortisol sensitivity increases subtly, and why stability becomes more important than ever. Not as a diagnosis, not as a limitation, but as a biological adjustment you can work with. Once you truly understand the neural sleep inhibition response, your perspective begins to change. You stop blaming your thoughts. You stop fighting your brain at 3 a.m. You recognize the protective pattern underneath. You see the physiology instead of the frustration, and that awareness reduces resistance. Because your brain was never fighting you, it was trying to protect you. It simply miscalibrated its sense of nighttime safety. And when you understand why that happens, you respond differently the next time you wake, which is exactly where the deeper explanation begins.